How did you get fired? I told my boss that I intended to quit and asked him to find a replacement. Instead he just fired me. Working as a cashier, I missed a case of water underneath someone's cart and turns out they were a secret shopper or something. I had a couple days off and I came back to look at the schedule and was told I was fired. Gave a spectacular demonstration of the top-heavy nature of a UPS truck. Rave reviews from locals, as the roadway was scattered with hundreds of packages. Management was unimpressed and suggested a different career. I came back from holiday and was jet-lagged due to the time difference, and therefore got tired towards the end of the working day. My tiredness was taken as an inability or unwillingness to do the job and I was marched off the premises. I told the manager that she was an entitled, the pompous, self-centered, mentally ill bully who was also almost certainly bipolar. Got fired within a couple hours. I knew I was irreplaceable. I knew I could call in so I could stay home and play World of Warcraft all I wanted. What were they going to do, fire me? They couldn't fire me, I was 20 years old and knew everything. They had a different opinion. Oil price had crashed down, engineering projects in the industry had ran dry, so along thousands of others I was made redundant. Yay for savings! I kept eating food when I just cooked it at McDonald's and giving everyone 2x the amount of nuggets, chicken fillets, etc. Fuck that place, it's a depressing nightmare. I had full-on lesbian sex with my boss's daughter. Totally worth it as I quickly found a better job afterwards. Missed work for a whole week to be tested for cancer. Didn't have cancer, it was an autoimmune disease, but the manager at the store said I was unreliable and distracted. Well yeah, I was being tested for cancer. Had a friends for benefits relationship with the regional manager of the bank that I worked at. Bro found out and fired me on spot. Worth it. Sex was good, work was shit. Found a better one anyways. Told school admin that they were full of shit and that their academic honesty policy is bullshit. I caught a senior cheating on my final phone and hand googling answers admitting to it. Failed him. He failed the year, couldn't walk. Admin said he didn't cheat. Fuck that bullshit. I refused to make up reasons to fire my employees. I was told to clean house. I put this process off for a few weeks while looking for a new job. I got my new job the week after they let me go. I'll straight up name and shame. Alorica, call center. Worked there for 10 months, was diagnosed with testicular cancer. Was only given 2 weeks off, and was texted multiple times during chemo sessions to ask if I worked overtime. Was forced to leave after 2 weeks, not even enough time to recover from my orchiectomy. Terrible place, terrible people, literal sweatshop. I worked at a movie theater and being honest I hated it and couldn't give two shits, so they were probably building a case to fire me anyways. The thing that put me over the edge was not putting enough ice in the GM cuck little husband's drink, and he reported and gave me some mean mug stare down. Like, bro, you're in your 40s with a wife and kids, mean mugging a 16-year-old. Didn't get fired so far. But 3 companies I worked for filed for bankruptcy. I am certain my current one will survive me though. Laid off. Walmart was doing a restructuring and I didn't get to stay on. I was given a severance and that was that. 6 years of busting ass for the company and get let go. On paper? Called into the meeting room before shift and told making some changes. In reality? Discussing wages with senior employees. Which is why less than a month after I was gone, 2 of the remaining 5 production quit. The 2 with the most seniority. As a cashier at Winn-Dixie Grocery when I was 16 would steal Cinnamon Toast Crunch and milk for my lunch breaks. They finally caught me. Finger was almost bitten off by an octopus. Boss fired me while I was in the ER waiting to get evaluated. Exact words were, "Bro, I'm fucking pissed. You're fired." Got falsely accused of making violent threats against someone I knew had committed multiple major ethics violations. Guess whose side the company took? I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car one day. I fuck up the customer car. It was a 2014 Toyota Camry with a Dodge Ram 2500. Now I'm blacklisted all because of that day. All I can say, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, they are a bit of trash. Made a semi-tasteless joke about safety when my mannequin was gravely damaged in a dangerous service elevator. Told my boss I needed time off for my finals. Next thing I know they want me to be an unpaid consultant working only 10 hours a week. Somehow didn't notice and went home 30 minutes earlier. On my way home when I was entering my apartment, manager called me and said I should come back for those 30 minutes or I'm fired. I was let go right at the beginning of the pandemic. After 20 years with the company. I was in a sales position and was killing it. I was making more than my bosses. As soon as business slowed down at the old SIA, it did save them close to $200K on their bottom line. I understand that the division hasn't recovered yet. I did manage to retire early after the dust settled. Not me but my dad's friend. He was an exec for a company that made disposable cups and plates. His company had just been bought out but he was still given the go-ahead to fly out and check on their factories in China for 3 weeks. When he returned he was immediately laid off his first day back. He negotiated a very nice severance package that included them paying for his MBA, fired from a dubious internet provider for not attending some sort of well-being assessment they didn't tell me about while signed off sick by my doctor. Honestly better off out of that shithole. They got up to so much dodgy stuff, trading under multiple different names. I'd be amazed if they are still in business. I did some small computer task in a little company. My now husband helped out with IT stuff, got hired and wrote a script that made my work obsolete. Worked 2 jobs. Got voted for both at the same time. Told one boss I couldn't do the shift. Got an email telling me never to return. It was my first time missing or even being late to a shift. I didn't do anything. I got told on a Monday that Friday of that week was my last day, and that I had to train my replacement. Slept with the business owner's son's girlfriend. People found out and I got fired. Now we've been dating for 6 months. I have a better job, benefits and increased salary, working at a Methodist college at the time as a systems admin. A few months before I made a funny, albeit racy, comment on my wife's tweet about how police act against black people. Apparently, someone at my wife's work who was pissed at her, found this tweet and sent it to the president of the college. Needless to say, I was quite pissed at that woman. From a grocery store back in high school, my pre-employment drug test came back positive for weed after working for like a week. Out of 30 jobs in my life it's the only one I've been terminated from. I have a problem with authority. Is what all the shitty managers that can't do their jobs worth a shit have said. The good managers don't seem to think I do. I don't honestly know. I'm working my new IT job, having a decent time, finding my groove, get called in and fired. No explanation. I didn't even make it 30 days. I was furious as I had never been fired ever. I turned to my company provided phone but forgot to download pictures I had taken of my kids. Memories forever lost. Told my manager that he's a fucking slave driver piece of shit and needs to stop treating me like I'm a fucking punching bag. Got laid off once. My boss gave me weeks heads up. When they officially told me they were laying me off on Friday, I had another job ready to go by the next Monday. Laid off job gave me severance so when my drug test came back negative but diluted. I got for because it was diluted. I drank a bunch of water before I did my test because I needed to be able to pee. Didn't know it would dilute it. I had a panic attack, put in my 2 weeks notice, walked out and they denied my notice saying I was fired. Okay, I kept catching errors in my co-workers' work and would attempt to correct it instead of letting it go. Eventually got let go since I couldn't stay in my lane. Home Depot. They changed my schedule without telling me and didn't call me when I didn't show up to their new schedule, so I missed 3 days in a row. I had photo evidence of the original schedule and they told me it's my job to check it daily and not their job to notify me of changes. Laid off the week after I told my boss I was burned out and thinking about quitting. She told me not to quit, to wait it out a bit. I guess she knew layoffs were coming. It was great, I got a decent severance and unemployment benefits. I took a few months off and started doing stand-up comedy. Found a new gig and I love it. I typed, "Are you fucking kidding me?" in an email. My boss, and my boss both assured me my job was safe, until 7 months later they decided my job wasn't safe. The lesson here, folks, is when in doubt, leave it out. This was a while ago, but I got marked for 2 no-call, no-shows even though I was supposed to be on vacation that weekend. I came in highest when I forgot that I worked that day so I went to get food and my manager went up to me, noticed that I was high and told me to fill out some, "Me and him are friends now." I turned the open sign off too early. The manager was watching the store from across the street. The next day they told me they didn't need me anymore and refused to give me my last paycheck till I returned the apron and shirt. Then I had to catch the manager there in order to actually get my check. Nearly filed a lawsuit. Friend gave me too high of a dose of Chlorcidin on accident the night before. Walked into my job as a movie theater usher the next day for the release of Harry Potter 5 firmly in the Shadow Realm. Didn't go well. My boss called and told me a co-worker no-call no-showed and if I wanted to keep my job I better get there ASAP to cover it. I told her I was drunk, she said she didn't care. Fired when I showed up for coming in drunk. Had her boss harass me and I stood up for myself. Eventually got fired, talked with a lawyer, formed a letter to the company detailing the workplace harassment. 2 depositions, and I got 1 year's salary, and they covered my legal expenses as long I wouldn't sue. I used my 15 discount for my mom while working as a cashier at PetSmart. I'd been doing that for 7 years, but they decided to make that against policy without letting anyone know. I got fired for money theft I didn't commit with my pay doc to cover the loss. A year later, the person that fired me was fired because she had been stealing money for years to fund her gambling. I'm sure you all can see what was happening. It was a pretty shitty job anyways, but I was still furious that my honesty was besmirched so she could cover up her own shit. I told the general foreman if he didn't quit talking to me like shit in front of the whole workforce in the mornings, I would drag him out of his truck and batter him across the site. This had been happening for a while. I told my manager every month for 6 months that I was going to be out of the country for 2 weeks. The times were accepted and agreed on. They scheduled me when I was out of the country, counted me as a no-show, no call, and took me off the schedule. I'd written proof about the accepted time off, and they basically said that they didn't want me back. Fired for using my personally provided MSDS approved safety equipment, was told we could be fined $11,000 for using it without having taken a fitting class. I said, "Do you have any idea what the fine is if we are caught not wearing it?" Boss didn't like that. I took FMLA and they pretended it was poor performance even though I was praised prior for being a top performer. Got fired on my day off like Craig. Worked in warehouse, said I was moving too slow. Manager emailed me saying I'm fired and my badge won't work anymore.